On today's episode of PDubs Arcade Loft, we finally had a chance to film part 2 of our Galaga Arcade1Up Countercade mod. Okay guys, we're back, and in the video description below I'll have a link to part 1 of the mod, where we kind of did a tutorial video showing you how to get the Geek Sales LCD HDMI converter board installed. That's that green board sitting behind the monitor. Taking a look here, what I decided to do was, we wanted to get out of this as quickly and cheaply as possible, so we went with our Raspberry Pi mod. And unfortunately, these new Generation 2 countercades from Arcade1Up, man, there's just not a lot of room to work inside of here. Very small space, very cramped, and definitely when it comes to trying to do a clean install, you definitely have to take your time, find shorter wires, shorter cables, do whatever it takes to get all this stuff fit inside. So utilizing the side panels is key, such as using strips to mount the encoder board. So some simple Velcro strips would be fine. I'll have links to everything I used in the video description below. But obviously here, because we went with a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus mod running the Scoony vertical image, we did need to get new buttons, encoder board, joystick, all that good stuff off of the internet in order to get this all set up. You'll notice here that I do have a light-up marquee from Angel Otero, which I'll show you in a minute. And in order to power the marquee, we're just going to use the original AC adapter that came to power the Galaga unit. Now, if you do end up purchasing a light-up marquee for the Galaga Countercade or any countercade from Angel, he is going to provide you all the goodies you need if you are keeping the machine stock, all the wires, everything you need to keep it stock. Unfortunately, because I'm not keeping it stock, all I needed was just to power the marquee on, so we have our outlet right here that we're going to be using. But Angel's solution is definitely plug and play. You guys definitely want to give it a shot. So taking a look at the mod here, I have 3 things that require power. I have the LCD driver board, I have the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, as well as I have Angel Otero's marquee. I have 3 things that I want to power on with the flick of a switch, the flick of a button. So of course right there you'll notice that I installed an EMI filter. Now this particular product you can get easily from DIY Retro Arcade, and they have it set up easily for you. So all you have to do is have a mini power strip inside of the cabinet that plugs into this, and then I'm able to have all 3 of those plugged in inside the cabinet. And if all 3 of those are plugged in inside the cabinet, all it takes is a flick of the switch on the back to power everything and get everything to turn on, which I'll show you in the video. And when it comes to, well, what cable are you going to use there to power everything? Just a simple PC cable, which you can find for like $2. DIY Retro Arcade also has spare PC computer cables as well, if you need to get your hands on one. And mounting these on the back of arcade cabinets is pretty simple. You get a nice little cutout that comes with them from DIY Retro Arcade, so you can trace them out, and all you have to do is cut in the appropriate hole and then use the simple screws and nuts, and boom, you have a power switch. So taking a look here, got a brand new control deck from DIY Retro Arcade. What's really cool is with the graphics that overlay the top of the control deck, you don't need an extra plexi cover on top of them. These graphics aren't going to wear away. Definitely went with the cheap joysticks and buttons just off the internet. Wanted to go as cheaply as possible with this mod, which I'll walk you through here in just a second. And then, of course, we have our awesome Visibility Upgrades Angel Otero marquee. We got the Mix Galaga 88 logos on here. A lot of us who bought these $50 countercades, we had a choice. Do we want to go all in because the countercade was so cheap and go high end on the mod, or do we want to keep it as cheap as possible? Me personally, I had no interest in spending a ton of money on a high-end countercade mod. I just wanted something quick. I did have some extra EG Starts controls. These aren't the greatest controls in the world. They're the cheap ones you find on Amazon, but honestly, they work. They do the job. A lot of folks keep their Galaga controls red, yellow, green, etc. I wanted to live dangerously, and I have blue buttons there for the start and hotkey. And considering we're only playing some MAME vertical games on here, 3 buttons seemed sufficient for what type of games we only intend on playing on this unit. If you've been a fan of my channel, you know the drill. Whenever I need a light-up marquee, there is only one man I call, and that is Angel Otero from Visibility Upgrades. And this marquee is pretty slick. For those who are keeping your cabinet stock with just the 2 games, Galaga 88, I think you'll like having this marquee as an option. I'll have a link to him in the video below. So since I have a mini power strip inside of the cabinet with our 3 power plugs plugged into it for the Marquee, for the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, and also for the LCD driver board, once I flick the back of the cabinet, flick the power switch, as you would expect, just like you've probably seen in 100 arcade mods in the past, everything powers up, your Marquee, your monitor, as well as your Raspberry Pi, your light-up buttons. If you do have light-up buttons, you don't have to put in light-up buttons. I just thought it would be kind of goofy to have the light-up buttons on this one because outer space, man. Galaga. Out of this world. And yes, I would recommend the Scoony vertical image. And here's a good shot of the Galaga 88 Marquee lit up by Disability Upgrades. Looks pretty good. Obviously, it's going to look better in person than it ever can on camera due to auto-dimming features on the lens and stuff like that. But it looks pretty sharp. I'm very impressed. Well done, Angel. Well done, Mr. Profit. Because I had extra buttons laying around for my Capcom cabinet mod, I went with an Atomic Market translucent bat top. That way, the lights from the light-up buttons kind of reflect and bounce off it and make it look kind of cool. Now, the good news is that Geek Sales LCD driver board does allow you to reuse the stock speaker that comes with this cabinet, so we don't have to do any kind of audio mod. And when it comes to, well, how are you going to adjust the volume? You don't have a volume switch on your control deck. Well, when you're powered on and when you're in the system, you just need to head on over to the options settings menu, which is going to be right about there. And inside of there, the first option, audio tools. And what's cool about this image, of course, is we can easily get into the audio settings and head on down to the option that says master volume, and we can crank up the master volume for that speaker. No volume switch needed on the control deck. Yes, this isn't as easy as using a volume button on a control deck, but then again, once I set it to a particular level, I haven't had to change it since. This level right here, perfectly fine for me on this unit, and it sounds really good. We all know that these monitors that come with these countercades from Arcade1Up are bad. I mean, really bad. Unfortunately, my camera here makes it look even worse. It definitely does not look this bad in person. It does not look this washed out. It does not have this much of a flicker on the screen. Also, those wavy lines on the screen, that's all from the camera that I'm using to record this on. In person, yes, the monitors are washed out. They don't look so great when you reuse the stock monitor. But if you're looking to do this as a basic mod, quick, down, fast, dirty, and simple, yeah, you can reuse it and it'll work just fine. Everyone who sits in front of these cabinets, these countercades, knows you have to be sitting dead on in order for the the screen not to look washed out. Like back there with the camera at an angle, it looked gray, but me sitting dead on, it looked black, the background, like it should. Either way, overall, I'm pretty happy with what we did here on this countercade mod. We got in, we got done. We got it done pretty cheaply and pretty effectively. And when it comes to shutting down the system, you know, although we have the power switch, you definitely don't want to do a dirty shutdown. You do want to hit the start button, go down to quit, go ahead and shut down the Raspberry Pi properly. And after the Raspberry Pi is shut down properly, that is when you'll notice the only thing left on is probably the buttons and the Marquee. And at that point, you just flick the power switch on the back of the cabinet to turn everything off, and boom, you're done. So everything powers on with a switch, but you do have to do a clean shutdown to not corrupt your Raspberry Pi image. Either way, pretty satisfied with what we did here, and I enjoyed it. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick, downright dirty, cheap Galaga Countercade mod video. If you did, give me a thumbs up on the way out. Leave your comments and feedback below. And as always, guys, thank you for subscribing.